So I'm going to begin in a very ordinary place. If you've ever had the experience of starting your day relatively grounded, and then somewhere between the news, your inbox, a conversation, a text, someone else's mood, you suddenly realize that you're not really even in yourself anymore, and you're not alone. Most people aren't failing to stay centered because they lack discipline or insight. They're losing their center because the world is genuinely loud and fast and demanding. And nobody has ever taught you how to stay inside yourself while you're living in it. I'm Leezá Steinorf. I'm an international coach. I'm a member of the Forbes Coaches Council. And I work with leaders and individuals who are capable and thoughtful, but they're tired of being pulled off their own axis by everything that's happening around them. And today we're going to talk about how to keep your center, not when things are calm, but when they're not. And there's a whole lot of that going on right now. Because when things are tough, that's when it matters for us to stay centered. And if you're new here, this channel is about internal authority. It's about grounded presence and living from what's real rather than what's reactive. All right, let's go through this slowly. So most people think that being centered means being calm. It doesn't. Being centered means being present, being in yourself, that you're actually at the steering wheel of your own experience and you're in your own driver's seat. So you can be centered and still feel grief. I assure you that, been there. And you can feel centered and still feel pressure and still be in conflict in conflictual situations, but be centered. So centering is not the absence of intensity or difficulties. It's the ability to stay connected to who you are while the intensity and the chaos is happening. And that is a learnable skill. I promise you, I'm a perfect example of that because I grew up in a violent home. I grew up with chaos. My voice wasn't heard, and my reactions were angry and chaotic, I'm going to say as well. And it took me a long time through trainings and education and best practices and spiritual work to come to a place where I could stay centered in the most difficult of situations. So if I could do it, I promise you anybody can. And here's a start. We're going to start with that today. First thing we're going to do is talk about clarity because understanding what actually happens is super useful. So people don't lose their center just because. They lose it predictably. Usually it's one or multiple of these things. There's external pressure, deadlines, expectations, um, people's judgments or requests or urgency or crisis even. There are internally emotional triggers of fear or shame, which was a huge one of mine, or anger or rejection or abandonment. Does any of that sound familiar to you? And then there's other people's energy, their anxiety, their reactivity or intensity or their shrinking. And when all that's happening, we have these internal stories going on. I should handle this. I can't let them down. This is my fault. I need to fix this. And then there's also habit, things that we've learned. You know, many people have learned, have practiced being uncentered for decades. As I said, that was the first part of my life. It took me a long time to reorient and come to such a place of calm and ease, even when things are burning. So here's the important reframe. Losing your center doesn't mean that you've lost something. It means simply your attention moved outside of yourself. I'm going to say that again because that's huge. When you don't feel centered, it's not because you've gotten lost internally. It's because you have moved your orientation outside of yourself. That's it. Your center's not gone. How can it be gone? But you're just not looking at it anymore. And it's available the very moment that you bring your attention back home. That's good news, actually. So that's what we're going to talk now about orientation because orientation matters. If people don't orient within themselves, it's so much easier to turn outward. They can turn centering into another performance. Let's get centered here, right? They're doing it for external awareness. Not what we're talking about. We're not talking about controlling your emotions or putting on a facade of calm, or being unbothered when you are, or rising above, or spiritually bypassing reality. It's not what we're talking about. Centering is super practical. It's recognizing that while you cannot control the world and other people and how time moves on and circumstances, you can orient to your breath, to your body and your awareness and your own posture and your own response. So the ownership that we're talking about here, this internal orientation, is not about blame. It's about authority, right? And authority comes from author, like the author of a book. You are the author of your own experience. You have that authority. And you can say, I don't need the environment to be stable in order to be stable. I can stay in myself even when things around me are chaotic. That's possible. And that orientation alone reduces reactivity. And in that moment, that's when you can return. Here's where the centering actually happens. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with meditation, but it's in the moment, in the life activities that centering can take place, and not in theory, but it's when you realize, when you recognize, oh, I just left myself. I'm out there. I'm trying to do all that out there. And it feels like you're rushing and you're tightening, you're scanning, performing maybe, or you're explaining or fixing, whatever it is, but you're not here. So the choice is really simple. And maybe at the beginning it's not easy, you need to practice it. You can stay out there trying to manage. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not judging not being centered. But it's a whole different experience when you choose to come back to yourself. And that return is the work. That's where the work takes place. And it can happen in seconds. So you can stay centered in real time. And let's talk about what helps to do that. First thing, you come back to your body. Centering is physical. It is physical first. When you're pulled off center, or I'm going to say you don't get pulled off center, when you leave your center because you put your tension out there, your body tells the story of that. Your shoulders tighten, or your jaw gets tense, your breathing gets shallow. It's like you feel, oh, I need a massage, right? Everything gets just tight. So that's what happens when you leave your center. And to return, feel your feet on the ground. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breath deepen and get slower. Your body anchors first on the ground, and that brings you back to your center. And it's what your mind needs to come back home. And secondly, then you slow the pace just a little bit, because there's urgency, right? But that's the fastest way to lose your center, is when you feel like, oh my gosh, and there's this and there's that, the phone's ringing and someone's talking to you and a text is coming in. Just slow it down a minute. Before you respond, pause for a beat, and then proceed, right? I've talked about POP. Pause, observe, proceed. So before you respond, take that moment and then go ahead. And that pause is not hesitation. It's actually making contact with yourself. And the third is to separate the moment from the meaning. So what's happening out there is going on in its own way, but you create the story. You give it meaning. They didn't respond to me, so I'm not important. Or they spoke sharply, so they must be upset with me because I've done it wrong. Well, you don't know that at all. They didn't respond. That's a fact. They spoke sharply. Maybe that's a fact. Could be your interpretation. But the story after that, you've inserted that. So centering means responding to what's actually happening, to the facts, not what you assume it means, not what you're infusing it to mean. Okay? The fourth thing is to protect your attention. When your attention keeps going out and out and out and out, just ask yourself, where's my attention now? Oh, it's out there. Bring it back. Where's my attention now? Oh, it's out there. Bring it back. If it's time to bring it back, there are times you need to have your attention out there, but you need to start here so that you can act and respond out there more effectively. So if it's on what you can't control, bring it back to your breath, to your body, or whatever it is that you're doing, whatever's in front of you. And that is not avoiding, it's actually grounding. And that's what's going to make you more impactful and productive and more connected to yourself and able to connect to others. All right, the next thing is you can hold emotional boundaries. So, other people's emotions are not yours to carry. You've heard me say this before if you've listened to any of my sharings. You can care about what they're feeling without absorbing what they're going through because only they can have their feelings. If you're responding, you're having your own feelings, not theirs. And you can listen without getting lost in what they're sharing. So you can stay present to other people without losing yourself. And again, this is a practice. And boundaries here are internal and they sound internal. I'm staying with myself. Or I don't need to merge in order to connect. Whatever feels right to you so you can keep a clarity of what's theirs and what's mine. Okay? Then you can use a centering phrase. Super simple language like come back, stay here, slow down, one thing at a time. For me, it's be here now. Yeah, something short that just brings you back in, into focus, into self, into groundedness. Quiet but effective. All right. And last thing is choose presence over performance. You know, I was raised in a family of educators and very high performers. Spoke multiple languages, traveled the world, and I was expected to be on all the time. And I learned that, and I learned it really well. But in the end, it drained me. And what I realized is I needed to recover from being performance oriented and to choose presence. And one of the biggest drains on your center is trying to be impressive or likable or perfect. That was my thing. I had to do it right. Or agreeable or unproblematic. That was another thing. I was always the problem because other people had their reactions, right? So centering is letting go of performing. It's saying internally, I'm here as me, not as an act. This is good and it's good enough. And then be that in the world. And that takes practice, especially when you've learned something different. Okay. So when we talk about excellence, we're talking about really not only returning to yourself, but sourcing from your highest and your best again and again. You find that place within yourself that you know well, and you speak from that place. Your voice steadies, your boundaries are clear, not hard, but clear, and your decisions are strong, and your relationships can feed you instead of feeling chaotic. And you can take action if they do feel chaotic. And you stop making everything personal about you. People have their lives, they have their histories. You don't have to react to every signal. You can be aware and then choose to respond. So you stop abandoning yourself when things get tough, when there's pressure. And then something really subtle happens. Your presence starts regulating yourself. And not because you're controlling anything, but because you're actually here. You're present. And that's excellence. That's where you can come from your highest and best and have the biggest impact in the world. So it's not perfection, it's consistency and returning to yourself until it becomes familiar. So I'd like to offer you a mini practice, a simple practice that you can use anywhere. Right now, as you're listening to this, put both of your feet on the floor. Inhale through your nose for 3 seconds and exhale through your mouth for 3. Drop your shoulders and say whatever phrase it is for you. Come back. For me, it's be here now. And feel your body for the remaining seconds. Just feel that. 10 seconds. And that's often all it takes to come back to center. You don't need the world to slow down for you to stay centered, because trust me, it's not going to do that. You need to come back to yourself. And that center has never left. So centering isn't about peace, it's about presence. And choosing internal authority instead of that external pressure determining your walk. And when you stay in your center, your choices get cleaner and your relationships become healthier and stronger, and your life starts to feel like it actually belongs to you because you're living from the inside out. And if you want to strengthen this, just practice it. Go back through this video and listen to it and take what works for you and then put that into your daily life. And if you want support in grounding or communication or your emotional steadiness, you can reach out to me through my website. Be an honor to work with you. And remember, your center never went anywhere. It's just bringing that attention back home. Thank you for listening. Be well.